Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, here Ina Noviyana, student number 2519101 from TBIG B. The first to the Honorable Mrs. Eros Melena Sofa as a lecturer in the Multimodal Listening and Speaking, and all my beloved friends. On this video, I will explain about what linguistic devices are and what is included in them. Linguistic devices. What do you think about linguistic devices, and what is the use of linguistic devices? Anyone know? Okay. Linguistic devices refers to the typical structures used by writers in their works to convey his or her message in a simple manner to readers. Linguistic devices can be used to influence a reader's responses or to help communicate an idea or point of view. We need to know to analyze figurative language in a poetry, drama, literature, speech, and etc. Here are some linguistic devices that are important for us to know, such as figurative language, sound devices, other literary devices, and some are used to analyze poetry. The first is figurative language. Figurative language used to create mental image and sensory impression for emotional effect, intensity, and give word more power. We have previously studied and know a little about figurative language, such as simile. Simile used to comparing two things using like or as. For example, Andy's smile is as bright as the sun. Metaphor. Metaphor identifying something as similar to some unrelated thing or rhetorical event. For example here, Jane is the apple of my eyes. Next, personification. Personification is figurative language in which non-human things or abstraction are represented as having human qualities or giving human attributes to an object. For example, the tree dances as the wind blows. Hyperbole. Hyperbole is an intentional and extreme exaggeration for emphasis or effect. For example, Diana is dying of embarrassment from her wardrobe malfunction. Next is idiom. Idiom is phrases people use in everyday language which do not make sense literally, but the meaning is understood. For example, better late than never, and etc. The second is sound devices. Sound devices are literary elements used in prose and poetry to stress certain sounds and create musical effects. Commonly used sound devices are repetition. Repetition is when an author repeats a word, phrases, sentence, or stanza for effect or emphasis. For example here, oh woeful day. Next is rhyme. Rhyme is the repetition of an sound in two or more words or phrases. This kind of rhyming is consciously used for a musical or aesthetic effect in a final position of lines within poems or songs. Alliteration. Alliteration is a sentence or a paragraph that start with the same letter or sound. For example, strong winds, still waters. Next is assonance. Assonance is the repetition of word. Assonance is the repetition of vowel sounds. Assonance often create near rhyme. Next is consonant. Consonance is the repetition of consonant sound at the end of middle of word. Next is consonants. Consonance is the repetition of consonant sound at the end or middle of words. But consonance is not a rhyme. For example here, cross place new with your fire tears. It sounds as. And next example, clean airs cloud place. It sounds sad, and etc. The third is other literary device. Other literary device, e.g., a symbol. A symbol is an object, person, place, or action that has a meaning itself, and that also stands for something larger than itself. For example, a dove symbolizes peace. A black crow or a raven symbolizes death. Allusion. Allusion is a reference to a person, place, event, or literary work that a writer expects the reader to recognize and understand. It may come from history, geography, literature, art, music, or religion. The next is oxymoron. Oxymoron is a figurative speech in which opposites are paired for effect. For example, living dead, deafening silence, only choice, and pretty ugly. Epigraph. Epigraph is a quotation at the beginning of a literary work to introduce its theme. Next is irony. Irony is a literary technique to use create meaning that seems to contradict the literal meaning or events, such as verbal, situational, and dramatics. Next is sarcasm. Sarcasm uses harsh words to hurt others and can take the form of ridicule or ridicule. Sarcasm comes from the Greek words, namely sark, which means flesh, and asmos, which means to tear. So literary sarcasm means tearing the flesh. And the last, paradox. Paradox is a seemingly contradictory statement that on closer analysis reveals and deeper truths. For example here, save money by spending it, and etc. And the last, number 4, is for analyzing poetry. The first is refrain. Refrain is a phrase or verse recurring at intervals in a song or poem, especially at the end of each stanza chorus. For example, what you need is not just money, but money is what you need. Next is rhythm. Rhythm means a movement characterized by an arranged sequence of strong and weak elements, or of opposite or different conditions. It can be concluded that rhythm is a beat made by dead sounds in words in poetry, and can also be made by rhyming seams, alliteration, and refrain. The next is stanza. Stanza is a group of related words in a poem, similar to a paragraph of prose, but does not have two complete sentences. It's like a poetry paragraph. The next is style. Style is the way of the author in writing his work. It involves how something is said rather than what is actually said. A writer's style is determined by the way by the way he or she uses words in his writing. For example, here is five verbs, imagery, sentence structure, and etc. The next is tone. Tone is the writer's attitude toward a subject, character, or audience, and is conveyed through the author's choice of diction, imagery, figurative language, details, and syntax. Next is mood. The feeling the writer creates for the readers includes how the reader should feel about the subject, despite words, image, and figurative language, and all aspects that affect the mood of a literary work. And the last is theme. Theme is the central message of literary work or idea the author wishes to convey about the subject. It is not the same as the subject which can express in one or two words. Oh, okay, that's all for me. We have learned a little bit about linguistic devices. Linguistic devices are really needed in analyzing figurative language in a poetry, drama, literature, speech, and etc. Literary devices used to find out what the author expects from the reader and what is the message contained in it. I hope this video is useful for anyone who sees it. Thank you and bye bye.